First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling someone to F off? At my fiance's work, there is an attractive guy. My fiance and her friend were talking about him, and apparently the friend tried to convince my fiance to cheat. She refused and told me. I visited her at work recently, and this friend began telling me that we should have an open relationship, and I'm holding my fiance back. I mostly laughed it off at first and told her I wasn't comfortable with that kind of relationship. She kept pushing, so I told her, Can you F off? I barely even know your name, lady. Your opinion does not matter to me. She got mad and called me an a-hole. My fiance was mad I treated her friend that way because she was joking. Am I the a-hole for getting mad? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. There is a time and place to tell someone to F off, and this is clearly a great example of where it's the right response. Where you need to fix things with your fiancé is to make it clear that you don't intend to pick her friends, but that you don't have to like them either, and to make sure this lady gives you a wide berth moving forward. If your fiancé can't support you on this, there are other issues in your relationship that need some work. Also, I would discuss with the fiancé how people that egg her to cheat are definitely not friends. Not the a-hole. Your fiancé is severely naive if she thinks that person is a friend. A friend doesn't try to get you to cheat, and definitely doesn't try to ruin a relationship with her friend's fiancé. Yeah, but she has a lot of insecurities when it comes to her friends. She had a huge friend group all of school, and then all of them stopped texting her back but kept hanging out without her. So she takes any friend she can get, which leads to situations like this. Not the a-hole. I was just joking is an a-hole code for I wasn't joking, but I want to make you feel like you're not allowed to be upset by anything I say. I hate hearing it's just a joke or some other version of that. I grew up with someone who was mentally abusive and that was their favorite line. It's not a joke if no one is laughing. It's just that person being an a-hole. This woman is not a friend. And it's possible she's trying to get Opie's fiancé to cheat because she can't. Or maybe she's trying to get other people to validate her own choices by dragging them into adultery as well. Either way, this is not a woman who Opie's fiancé should be associating with. Opie is not the a-hole, and his fiancé needs to reconsider if this is someone she wants to associate with. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for arguing with my fiancé after she read my late fiancé's diary? My, male 34, late fiancé passed away from brain tumor 3 years ago. I had known her most of my life. We grew up together and were engaged for 2 years. We wanted to get married sooner, but she got sick and never recovered after that, despite doing all we could to fight this god-awful disease. My late fiancé had a diary that I gifted her right after she was diagnosed. She was the type that get very emotional and would have a difficulty expressing her feelings and opening up about her issues. She was very thankful I brought her the diary, and she told me I was the only one who really understood what she needed and how she felt. I'd see her spending a lot of time writing in her diary, whether at the hospital or at home. I never read it while she was alive, but she let me have it a week before she passed away. I had a hard time looking at it, and I left it untouched for over a year after her death. That's when I started reading it. I brought it up in therapy, and it helped me tremendously. I don't have much of her stuff, but I still have her diary with me. I'm now engaged to my fiancé, who I met via a mutual friend, and she was wonderful when I met her. My current fiancé and I are open to each other. We talk about what bothers us all the time, but at the same time, there are things that I'd rather not share nor talk about. I'm getting better at communicating, but I'm taking my time. My current fiancé knows about my late fiancé's diary. Despite her asking to see it, and I have no idea why she'd want that, but I made it clear that I have no intentions in sharing what's in it with her. It's not like it's a secret, but I know my late fiancé would want me to keep it that way. My fiancé kept bringing it up, knowing how uncomfortable that made me feel. And yesterday, I got home and found out that she took the diary and read it. I was absolutely pissed, and she didn't even deny it. Even tried to argue with me about why I was lashing out at her, even though she disrespected my boundaries. She even refused to acknowledge that couples should have personal boundaries. I yelled at her for being so inconsiderate and for touching the diary in the first place. She got upset that I reacted like this and refused to talk to me for hours. She's currently staying at her friend's house, saying that I was being harsh on her. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She disrespected and violated your boundaries. And personally for me, this would be near instant breakup worthy. Couples therapy is for couples who have trouble understanding each other. There's no gray area here. You said to not read a diary because it's personal, and she violated that very simple request. She's shown she's comfortable violating your comfort zone to make herself feel better. My husband has a diary and the engagement ring from his fiancée before me. She died of cancer. I have never asked to see it. He showed me the ring once, gorgeous, and it has remained in its box inside a keepsake box for our 14-year relationship. Around year 10, he asked if I wanted to read it, and I said no. I cannot begin to imagine the mindless obsession, insecurity on her part, and lies she has told herself and her friend to justify this. Not the a-hole. She can stay there. WTF, did she think to glean from this? Honestly, it's such a breach of trust and boundaries that I don't think you can come back from that. I had no idea why she wanted to look at it so badly, even after I already told her how I felt. Still, she did what she wanted to do eventually, and thinks I'm the one at fault for how I reacted. I have no energy left to be dealing with this much stress and pressure. I'm just tired, and I wish she could see what she did was wrong and unacceptable. Not the a-hole. I would seriously reconsider marrying someone with so little respect for boundaries. This 100%. She owes you a huge apology and she needs counseling. You might benefit too. You have to look at this rationally. She does not respect you, your feelings, or your belongings. Then she tries to turn it around on you. That's gaslighting. Please seriously consider whether you want to move forward with this person. The next story is titled, My 28 female, ex 28 male, chose his best friend, 28 female, over me, and now is upset and moving on. I had a 2-year relationship with Andrew, which ended 1.5 years ago when I had finally had enough of him taking his rude, passive-aggressive best friends, we'll refer to her as Chloe, side over mine constantly. I gave him an ultimatum to pick her or me, and he chose her. So we broke up. I reconnected with my ex Dante shortly after this happened. Dante and I dated for 5 years but broke up because he wanted to be child-free and I didn't. He since changed his mind, and we got engaged a week ago. I posted about it on Facebook, and a few hours later, Andrew sent me a message saying he couldn't believe I had moved on so quickly, how he always knew I didn't love him as much as Dante, how he thought we would get back together once I calmed down, how I had betrayed him, etc. Chloe sent me a long message apologizing for the things she has said/done to me, and said Andrew was just being a good guy by trying to help us become friends instead of enemies. She said Andrew had become very depressed since seeing my post, as everyone always thought we would end up together. She ended it by asking me to give him a second chance. I haven't replied to either because I genuinely don't know what to say. I've had a few other friends tell me Andrew is in a really bad state and he feels awful for how things ended between us. They've all asked me to speak to him to help give him closure, but I really don't know what to say. What do I do? Now for the top advice. You don't owe him closure. You don't owe him crap. If you truly want to marry Dante, it'd be in your best interest to block him and Chloe and move on. Agreed on this. No response is a response. Leave them on read. He is a grown-ass adult. He needs to deal with his feelings, not pawn them off on you to fix. You broke up over a year and a half ago, not your circus anymore. Talking to him now will really just drag you into that whole situation again. Unless you want to leave your fiancé for him, I would stay away. I don't even understand why OP is faced. Andrew and Chloe are just people you used to know. Block them all. To hell with haters. Enjoy the hell out of your new fiancé. 1. He expected you come begging to him after the breakup, which you never did. 2. He realized how badly you were treated by his best friend after the breakup, but didn't have the balls to apologize. 3. He hates that you are not unhappy and crying like him. 4. He finally burst out to his close friend that it was her fault, so she apologized after years. Edit. Just realized that I was commenting in wrong sub. Sorry, but points are still valid. Yes. He made his choice a year and a half ago. Good on you for leaving him and expecting better. Tell your fiancé everything. Let him read the messages, and then block both the ex and his friend. He chose her, so he can get closure from her. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for anonymously reporting my fiancé to her hospital? I, male 33, been with my fiancé, female 32, for 6 years in total. She's a doctor and has been working at the local hospital for 3 years after moving from another town. We'd argue sometimes over different matters, but nothing major or too serious, until now. Now, I'm not the type that calls every other hour whenever she's away or anything. I give her her space and I respect her privacy. I never really tried to even ask how her day at work was because she likes to keep work/personal life separate. Understandably so, but things have changed. I noticed there was this guy who has been a patient under her care who always gets brought up. For example, she'd have his number and call him outside of work. I was surprised when I heard her talking about him to a close female friend of hers. And when I asked, she told me patient confidentiality, so I shouldn't ask who this guy is. I basically knew nothing about him other than he receives treatment under her care. That's it. I tried to let it go and thought nothing of it. But I couldn't ignore her interest in this particular patient after she started contacting him during late times at night for long periods. I just confronted her, and she lashed out saying I was trying to get involved in her job and trying to control her. I ended up reporting her anonymously after she behaved like this. And I did my best to not make her feel like I had anything to do with it, but she came home and yelled at me, telling me that I was behind the issue she had at work, and that the hospital officials have spoken with her and got the patient involved as well after they received a complaint against her. She somehow knew and yelled at me for wanting to ruin her career by being petty. She refused to sit down and talk, packed her things and left. She told me to not try to contact her because she wanted to rethink being with someone who has no regard for her hard work. I tried to explain to her, but she keeps lashing out at me. I felt absolutely terrible, but her reaction wasn't fair to me at least. She didn't even think how her behavior was affecting me and kept calling me petty. Info: I was able to determine exactly which patient she was talking to her friend about by talking to her friend. Otherwise, I wouldn't have felt strongly that something was going on. Her friend told me that my fiancé mentions his patient a lot and talks about him in details. She'd get so defensive whenever I tried to have a conversation with her about this issue and make sure I get zero answers. Also, whenever she's on the phone with him, she'd walk out and stay gone for a long time, then stays quiet afterwards. Honestly, at this point, it's pretty obvious, and I feel so bad that she's behaving like this now after 6 years. I've never seen her act like this ever. I have an awful feeling, and I just can't take it. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. Your behavior was petty. If you suspected cheating, you should have talked about your concerns with her or just left, not called her job in an obvious attempt to get her in trouble or fired. There isn't enough info, but the problem is that there's some reason to believe the doctor was engaging in a massive ethical boundary crossing with the patient. If that is what is happening, it should be reported to the authorities for the protection of the patient and the public. You're the a-hole. I notice you don't say what kind of doctor she is. Either way, you reported her anonymously, which means you already knew you were being an a-hole and you just didn't want to commit to your a-holery. Doesn't matter, still an a-hole. That's a bit of a leap. People report things anonymously because they don't want to face blowbacks. Sometimes the blowback is justified, but often it isn't. I swear, I just saw a post on here where OP was told anonymously reporting her sister to CPS was a good move, because then she wouldn't get cut off from the kids and she would keep an eye on them. You're the a-hole. It sounds to me like you reported her out of jealousy. It's not clear here that she was acting unprofessionally or breaking patient confidentiality/HIPAA. Calling a patient outside of work and talking about a patient, if she's not sharing protected information, is not grounds for her being reported. It sounds like you were insecure, and instead of trying again to have a mature conversation with her or giving her an ultimatum, etc., you took it out on her career. Dating a patient is not okay either. Either she is acting within her job description and the issue will be dropped, or she isn't and needs to be stopped. It does seem like she is violating ethical bounds or HIPAA. Am I the a-hole for my reaction after my fiancé sent our wedding invitations without my consent? I, male 30, met my now fiancé, female 28, 3 years ago. She was previously engaged to her late fiancé, passed away 3 weeks before the wedding unexpectedly. He had a good relationship with her family, and they bring him up from time to time, but not much. Surprisingly, I know nothing about this guy. My fiancé never talks about him for some reason, although I always encourage her to remember good happy moments. She'd go radio silent whenever her family mentioned him. Anyways, we didn't have any issues until my fiancé and I started planning for our wedding. She suggested a specific date, and I had several reasons to not agree. One of them is that my mom is recovering from a major surgery, and since she's my remaining family, I want her there with me. My fiancé kept insisting and refused to compromise. I took a few days to calm down so we can discuss this again. But I was surprised when Justin, my brother-in-law, contacted me saying his sister's been sending out invitations with the date she picked, and almost everyone in her family received one. He then told me the reason his sister insisted on this specific date is because this was the exact date she and her late fiancé were going to get married, but it didn't happen. I was stunned. That was a messed up discovery. What's worse is that her entire family knows and none of them mentioned it. Yep, even more messed up. I never knew about that, although we had plenty of heart-to-heart together. I was upset. I confronted her. She defended herself, saying she didn't think it'd matter if I knew this is the date when she and her late fiancé were getting married. I said it matters to me, and she shouldn't send out invitations without even telling me. Told her to fix it since it's her family who got the invitations. But she said I was being unreasonable, that she too gets a say as much as I do. That she already went ahead and made reservations on that date. I argued that I was backing out of wedding planning since she keeps insisting on that specific date. I ended up sending everyone who received an invitation an email stating that the wedding is officially postponed. I didn't give the real reason why, but I did apologize. She let everyone know, and everyone except Justin has been criticizing my stance, calling me ridiculous and inconsiderate to postpone for a pathetic reason like that. Some even claimed I was being a goddamn groomzilla for not just going with the flow. It didn't feel right. I kept thinking about how our wedding anniversary will be a constant reminder for my fiancé about her late fiancé for years to come if I give in and agree on this date. I subconsciously hated it. Now for the top comments. I'm sorry, but that is pretty low on her part. She isn't seeing you or marrying you. She is marrying a ghost. Run, you are not Dayhall. Not Dayhall. Cancel the wedding. She's simply awful. And don't make it about the fact that it's her wedding date with her ex. Simply repeat to anyone who asks that she disregarded your wishes to pick a date your mother could attend and sent out the invitations anyway. You don't get to treat someone like that. She doesn't deserve a life partner at this stage. Not Dayhall, and the wedding needs to be cancelled, not just postponed. Never marry someone who sends out wedding invitations without clearing it with you first, especially when you had already specifically told her that the date was a no. Not Dayhall. Would not proceed with this marriage without premarital counseling. There's nothing wrong with counseling at that stage, but clearly your fiancé is still grieving and having an open issues is no way to start a marriage. Honestly, if the date means that much to her, I suggest you push it back a year. Your mom matters to you. Not Dayhall. I don't think I'd go through with this marriage. This sounds like she's pushing for some personal agenda. Either way, she blatantly disregarded your opinion and thoughts on your wedding. You know, the thing that you should be doing together? Major red flag. Not Dayhall. It sounds like your fiancé hasn't grieved properly for her dead fiancé and isn't ready to move on. She's using you as a fill-in. Postpone getting married until she gets some much-needed therapy. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to be a stepmother to my fiancé's children? Before I met my fiancé, Cam, he and Monica had 2 children, aged 2 and 4 now. They were already broken up when the youngest child was conceived. One last hookup got them pregnant again. Monica remarried very quickly to Alan, and they tried to have Cam's parental rights terminated so that Alan could adopt the kids. Monica's parents and Alan's parents, who are both wealthy, all joined forces on this. They were not able to get Cam's parental rights terminated, but Cam was not able to get much custody. He got the standard every other weekend and 2 weeks in summer, but they have all done anything they can to interfere with his custody time, so he's gotten a lot less than that. Cam and I have been together for 2 years, but I've only met his kids a handful of times. I have an extremely demanding career that's very important to me, and weekends are the only time I have for myself. Cam knows that with my career, I don't have time or energy for parenting. I was happy to be another caring adult figure in his kids' lives, like a cousin or aunt role, but I can't be another parent. Cam asked me to marry him and said he understood that I'd never have to take that role. Yes, here and there, if he really needed a helping hand occasionally, that was fine. But neither of us ever planned for him to rely on me for childcare regularly. Monica and Alan got in an accident where both were drunk. Monica died instantly and Alan was severely injured. Alan has been in rehab and Cam has had the kids. Since then, all 4 of those grandparents basically dropped off the face of the earth. They show no desire to have anything to do with the kids or help whatsoever. We also haven't been getting any calls from Alan even as he heals. I have been helping Cam to the best of my ability, and what's crystal clear is that I can't do this. All of my reasons for not wanting to be a parent turned out to be extremely true. I have been helping him because of course I have, but I can't do it forever. I have been telling Cam that we need to call off the wedding because I can't be a parent. I will help him get his feet under him, but I cannot be a parent and commit to it for life. Cam has not accepted this whatsoever. Half the time, he spends guilt-tripping me about how these kids need me and even encouraging the 2-year-old to call me mommy, which I think is horrible of Cam to do. The other half the time, he spends sobbing and begging me about how he can't lose me, how he'll figure it out. He'll find help so that I don't need to be in a parent role. I don't see how that would possibly work, and I told him we need to break up and he could find someone that wanted to be a parent. Now, my entire family is attacking me and calling me heartless and telling me we can work it out. I asked them if they thought it was okay if I married him but didn't take a parent role. They said of course not. I should just suck it up and be a parent. I was going to say you're the a-hole until I saw that you were asking to call off the wedding, which is the right thing to do. And you should have never agreed to marry a man with young children if you weren't interested in being a parent. So I guess not the a-hole since you're calling off the wedding. But seriously, OP, please don't date other men with children. Yes, this was just unexpected because all 4 of those grandparents literally spent tens of thousands of dollars to get his custody taken away. Every indication would be if something happened to Monica, they would all fight for grandparents' rights in custody, not fall off the face of the earth. But now that this situation has become very real, I won't make the same mistake again. You are not an a-hole for leaving him. You are an a-hole for staying with a man who has kids for 2 years and thinking you can be child-free. They are a package deal, no matter how little he asked them. As you learned, things can change in an instant. Not the a-hole. Though a little everyone sucks here, the kids aren't optional, and you were both dreaming to think that this would ever work that way. But you are not the a-hole for figuring it out and stepping away. You're right to walk away. I agree walking away would be the right choice. Opie says she's been with partner for 2 years, and the child of the last hurrah with ex-wife is 2 years old. She indicates ex-wife moved on very fast, but clearly partner did too. The whole family sounds like a lot of complex and unstable relationships surrounding the kids, and her not wanting kids is not likely to do favors for anyone involved. Yes, Cam and I have actually known each other for many years, so we did move fast, but we've also known each other a really long time. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my father's wives into my life? So, my father has always been manipulative and horrible to me and my mom. I will not go into detail because the post would get removed. When I was 10, he left us for a mistress of many years, and my mom completely broke down. Finding out that she had sacrificed all her dreams for this bastard just broke her. The result is a sense of denial. She cannot accept that he is a bad person, and 15 years later still loves him. My dad sometimes used it to manipulate her financially. Even though we do not have a traditional mom-daughter relationship, we are good friends. My mom is now a very supportive and a good person who is very close to both me, my husband, and my in-laws, and I am grateful to have this family now. But to go back, since Dad left, I said I would never agree to meet his mistress. My mom got the sole custody, and though my dad tried to force me, I just refused to communicate with his wife. He only got me twice a month for an evening out, movies, so it is not like I was spending weekends at their place causing drama. My father got kicked out by her a couple of years later, and promptly found another woman. Married her weeks after meeting her. Smart guy. I didn't go to the wedding, and the lady is extremely abrasive. I have met her once, and she refused to shake my hand and was generally very rude. From her Facebook posts, which my father shares, she's a very insufferable extremist with whom I do not want to associate. Here might really be the a-hole. Now it is my father who keeps trying to have a relationship. I would have gone no contact if he didn't keep trying because when in the past, I let him get closer to me. It hurt me or my mom again. He does seem to have grown a lot and completely changed his lifestyle and really wants to make amends. Now I am almost 9 months pregnant with mine and hubby's first kid. It is also my father's first grandchild. He has been calling and trying to fix things ever since he found out. The last time he called, he talked about grandma and grandpa with his wife, and I told him no. I will be okay in letting him have limited contact with the baby, but I will not let his new wife be grandma. My mom and my mother-in-law will be grandmas. He lost it and screamed at me that I have caused his previous marriage to fail because I would not accept his wife, that I'm again trying to ruin his life. I told him I will not risk damaging relationships when for the first time in my life I have a functioning supportive family. That I was never his priority, and therefore he is not my priority over people who actually care. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to allow my father's wives into my life? Not the a-hole. I have to wonder how much he's changed if he's currently blaming his failed marriage on you. Good question, but from how things were, he actually has. He stopped being a workaholic and a borderline alcoholic. He is much less aggressive now, etc. It used to be bad. When I was 6, I said that I'm afraid of 3 things: vampires, monsters, and daddy. OP, not being so bad doesn't mean that it's good. Not the a-hole. People do not change. They just get better at hiding who they really are. Oh, I love this quote. Thank you. Not the a-hole. It sounds like you already know this, but here for reinforcement. You're absolutely in the right to keep anyone you feel is toxic away from your child. And bad taste in who you marry and trying to drag them into your daughter's life against their will definitely counts as toxic. I think you are safer staying no contact. I was seriously getting some doubts, especially seeing the amount of blended families and people who get along with their parents' new partners. Thanks, I needed this. The last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting my boyfriend's little sister to use every single one of my things? For context, my fiancé and I have moved into his mom's house to help save for our new home at his mother's request. He has a 7-year-old sister, and we are both mid-20s. Our room does not have a lock, and I keep all my things in our room because there isn't any more space in the shared bathroom. It started with using my phone for TikTok or whatever. In the beginning, I did not care, but I realized she was going through my messages, emails, social accounts, pictures, documents, etc. for whatever reason. She ended up deleting and rearranging a whole bunch of apps on my home screen, and that was the final straw, so she's no longer allowed on my phone anymore. I have an iPad that I used to do my work on, and she has been bombarding me asking if she can use it, and I've told her many times she cannot. She has complained to my fiancé and her mom about the situation, and while they don't say anything to me, I can tell they want me to let her use it so she shuts up about it. Before I moved in with them, I was doing nails out of my home and brought my things so I could continue doing press-ons, as well as my own and my mother-in-law's nails from time to time. I told his little sister not to touch any of my professional nail stuff for obvious reasons, and that if she ever wanted her nails done, I would paint them myself. I have since walked in on her going through my nail supplies and using my polishes. Gel polish that you need to cure, which she does not cure because she doesn't know how it works. She is also making us think about me putting acrylics on her year-old, but I said no. 1, because of her age, and 2, because I'm not going to perform an entire nail service on a person who is not paying for my work, let alone fully appreciate it. If that sounds harsh, I don't even care because acrylics are a process. Now it's everything else. Jewelry, makeup, skincare, she goes through my clothes. She moves my things around even if she's not moving or using things. She's opening drawers and going through my belongings. I come home after work to go to bed, and she's in my bed watching while eating snacks when there's a TV in the living room and her mom's room. When I come into my room after a shower to change, she walks right in. When I am in my room wanting some time to myself, she comes in and sits there and won't be quiet. I'm losing my mind. I'm trying to be stern without crossing the boundary of disciplining someone else's child, but I really can't handle it. Nothing bothers me more than someone using my things without asking or just invading my space in general. My fiancé won't help me set boundaries. He doesn't care if she's in the room when he changes, and she doesn't care for any of his things. I just want to know if I'm being irrational, or if I have every reason to take my stuff and go. Thanks. Not day haul. If a lock isn't approved by your mother-in-law, I'd suggest at least getting a big safety lock box to put your nail equipment and valuables into. Your boyfriend not addressing this problem is definitely a concern though, so I think his lack of support towards protecting your personal belongings and valuables needs to be addressed as well. I agree. He doesn't see a problem with his sister's behavior? Red flag. Also, he isn't being your advocate like he should be. There are definitely several conversations that need to be had before you even begin to discuss wedding dates. Not day haul. You need a lock on the door and some kind of lockable space for your supplies. It's not unreasonable at all to want your privacy or your stuff to be left alone. You need the fiancé to pull his finger out and help you set your boundaries. Looking into locks as we speak. Thank you. Yes, a lock isn't just a temporary solution. If you plan to marry this guy, you need to talk to him and he needs to do something. For Pete's sake, he's not having any care for you and your stuff. Am I the a-hole I did not send my ex-fiancé's belongings to her? 3 months ago, Vanessa no-showed me on the day of the wedding. She had not mentioned any disagreements, and I was taken by surprise when she just did not show up at the altar. We had been living together in a rented apartment. I tried reaching her and her parents' numbers, but they had all blocked me, I believe. So I stopped trying to contact them and left the apartment after paying my share of dues. The apartment owner asked me to take her belongings with me as well, but I refused and told him to contact her himself, and I gave him hers and her family's phone numbers and address. I also requested him to not share my new contact details with my ex or her family. I then moved to a different city and rented a studio apartment for myself. My previous apartment owner called me soon after that to say that he had tried contacting her but couldn't reach her, so he left all her belongings at the police station. My ex came to my parents' home a week ago and found me there. She was mad at me for leaving her belongings at the apartment instead of contacting her. Apparently, the apartment owner sued her for not paying rent and going no contact. She had to pay a huge amount to compensate for it. I told her that she should not have blocked me if she was keen on getting her belongings back. Now she's ranting about me on her social media from what I heard from close friends. Maybe I should have tried contacting her more before leaving her belongings there, so that she would not have been sued by the homeowner. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Info. How did she expect you to contact her since she blocked you? I think a provisional NTA is in order. It's not like she didn't know her stuff was there. She also didn't pick up when the landlord called, so her problem appears to be 100% of her own making. I'm sure it stung to be left at the altar, but you've probably realized by now she did you a favor, though I'm sure that wasn't her motivation. She's now with another guy. I think she cheated on me and did not want to confess about it. She didn't want to take responsibility for her own mistake? Color me shocked. I still don't see how she expected you to contact her. In any case, you dodged a bullet by not marrying her, even though it seems she's still determined to create turmoil in yours and your family's lives. Maybe a restraining order is called for here. Yep. Maybe you should have tried contacting her more? Like, how exactly? OP, I'm sorry she did that to you. That must have been awfully heartbreaking. That being said, I'm glad you didn't marry this person. You apparently still think that you should have done more. No. Just no. None of that is on you. Maybe you should have tried contacting her more before leaving her belongings there so that she would not have been sued by the homeowner. You did. You tried contacting both her and her parents. After a no-show at the wedding. You do not have to jump through hoops to chase this twit. You are not the a-hole, and your parents need to trespass her from their home. If she shows up there again, call the cops. She blocked you and then got angry you didn't contact her? As long as you squared everything away with the landlord before you left, I'd say that's where your obligations ended. I only paid my share of the dues. I did not clear her dues for her. That's why he sued her. Exactly. You took care of your obligations and you're not obligated to cover her finances. She's a grown adult. The ironic part is that Opie would have had some obligation as spouse if she hadn't left him at the altar. Sounds like Opie dodged a bullet. Next story. Am I the a-hole for barking at my ex? Some background. My ex Ezra, male 40-ish, and I, female 36, split in 2018 when after maybe 6 months in, he started to show some red flags here and there. I ran for the hills, got over him, found my person, and I'm overall happy in my life. That's now. Then I focused on work. Him on his new girlfriend that lasted maybe 8 months. Their breakup also started at calls. First for support, but they soon evolved into griping sessions I wasn't in the mood for. It got so bad I had to block him, but then emails started coming, so I blocked him there too. In the meantime, I moved with my man, 2 blocks away from my best friend and within a mile from Ezra's baby mama's place. I was on my way home from my BFF's. Lovely night. I'm all tipsy and happy, headphones in and walk dancing through the streets, when all of a sudden a wild Ezra appeared with a kid, 13, in tow. Since I didn't hear him calling me, he decided to rip one of my headphones and started yelling this and that. Basically rubbish and how I destroyed his relationship. Never met the girl, so witchcraft it is. And how I'm a huge witch. Well, so I started barking, and kept barking, rising the volume to match his. People were staring, but I'm too tipsy, so I don't give a F. Lucky for him, a clever boy, he got quiet quickly, looked around and left. Eureka! Something works. Since then, every time Ezra bothers me in public, I just bark at him loudly till he runs away. One of common acquaintances is a happy gossip. Apparently, Ezra is, in his own words, traumatized by my behavior. He says I'm crazy, and I'm an a-hole for humiliating him in public. Am I, though? You are a queen. No, you. This is honestly the biggest power move there is. You decided to not play by his rules and give him what he wants. A public fight in front of his kid, and came up with an off-the-wall move that he has no idea how to respond to. Absolutely amazing. Hopefully he'll learn you're the alpha here and leave you alone eventually. Sometimes you just have to be a little louder and boisterous to get people to shut up and leave you alone. As long as you have not initiated a confrontation, shut it down quickly and move along. Your last sentence is exactly what I'm thinking. I've no time for a row in the middle of the street. It's very time effective. 60-second tops and I can go on my own way. You did what you had to do to get away from the crazy ex. If you keep saying that he was traumatized, tell the gossip acquaintance how he assaulted you. Because ripping your headphones is considered ass, and you were so scared that you freaked out and started to bark. Complain that you need therapy now. I'm already in therapy for totally unrelated things. Therapy squared. Thank you so much. It's not as serious of a crime here where I live. Don't worry though, it's not a big issue in my life. He's just a little bee. Pun definitely intended. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for using my ex-wife's maiden name? Ex and I have been divorced almost 10 years. She kept my last name because we have kids or something like that. I wanted her to change it back and told her it was the law that she had to. I don't use my last name for her. I have her in my phone with her old name. When I have to send her a check, I use her old name. When I fill out forms for the schools or doctors, I use her old name. And she says this causes problems, but I'm not sure why. A couple weeks ago, my daughter called her mother during a class at school and asked her what her last name was. Obviously, this made the mother confused. My daughter said that Dad wrote it down as old name, but you always write it as my name. The mother told my daughter that it was my name. The week after that, my daughter brought me a sports paper to sign. The mother had already signed and written her name. Before I signed, I crossed out my name and wrote her old name. My daughter started to cry and said I was disrespecting the mother, but I told her the mother was disrespecting me by keeping my name. Next thing I know, I get a nasty email from the mother telling me to cease and desist using her old name and that her legal name is my name. She said if it happens again, she will take me to family court. I talked to my wife about it, and she said I'm not the a-hole because now that we are married, only she can use my name. She says I should go back to court to force the mother to legally use her old name. My ex-wife says I'm an a-hole because this disrespects her, and that disrespecting her is disrespecting our children. I told her children don't need respect, and I don't respect her at all. So, am I the a-hole for this? You're the a-hole. Last names are not legal property and therefore it's not illegal for your ex to keep your last name. A court cannot and will not force her to change it, so you'd be wasting time and money. So you lied to her. Using her non-legal name means checks will bounce, her identity cannot be confirmed, etc. That is making it hard for her to be able to identify herself and get the checks you sent her. I think you know that and are doing that in an attempt to get her to change her name back. You play dumb, but I think you really know what you're doing. Stop being a prick to the mother of your children. Quit the crap. You're not creating a good co-parenting relationship with your ex, and it's resulting in anger from your children. Is your name so freaking important? I doubt it is. That you would hurt your own children because of something so stupid? So what if she wants to keep it? If it means she can be easily identified as the mother of the children you share, be able to receive checks, and do her duty as a parent to your kids, then that is of no concern to you. Pull your head out of your bottom and stop being an a-hole. You're the a-hole. You should love your child more than you hate your ex-wife. That is all that needs to be said. OP is so concerned about being an a-hole to his ex that he doesn't care about hurting his children, and it's pathetic, OP. You're the a-hole. It's not the law that your ex changed her name back to her maiden name. Her name is legally the last name she changed it to when she married you. You're putting down the wrong name every time you put down her maiden name on something. It could cause a lot of issues. She might not be able to cash checks you write her in that name. If you fill out medical forms with her maiden name, it doesn't match her ID, which has her legal name on it. The one she changed it to when she got married to you. You're not only being disrespectful, you're causing actual problems. She didn't steal anything. It's so true. It can cause, and already causes, so many problems legally wise. I can't stress enough how irritating it is that you hunt her and change her legal details without her consent, while complicating things for her. And since you brought the legal aspect, there's a solid chance that it's illicit or borderline illicit to change her legal details without her consent. It's not illicit to keep her marital name, that's for sure. You're the offender here. And if I was in her position, I would take you to court a long time ago. I don't know how she has the patience to deal with it for a decade. Next story. Am I the a-hole for no longer helping my girlfriend? My girlfriend has a history of bringing animals home with no real regard for the people she lives with. I found out only after I had already moved out with her that her parents had kicked her out previously for the same issue. This isn't the reason she moved in with me. She had moved back in with her parents after not being able to financially sustain herself before I met her. When we moved in together, she had 5 cats and 4 dogs. My allergies were an issue, and cleaning and looking after the animals was pretty demanding both in terms of time and finances, and I never really had any animals before, so it was quite a stressful adjustment. However, she got a bit too comfortable with me helping so much, so I was the only one taking care of them, and the bulk of their food and toys and vet bills were coming out of my pocket. I blew through a large amount of savings because of this, which led to a lot of arguments. I tried communicating that I needed a change, and I couldn't keep doing what I was. All she ever really told me is that adult life isn't cheap, and losing finances is part of life. Things got worse after she lost her job, and I now also had to cover her rent. Everything I had saved up for a car over the last 2 years was now gone, which really depressed me. I checked out of the situation and stopped caring for her animals, only paying for absolute necessities so they were at least fed, until she found a job. I told her they weren't my animals, and that we just can't support so many while we both have full-time jobs, rent and other bills to pay. This caused her to reevaluate, and she ended up rehoming some of them so things could be easier. She's now been saying she gave up her animals for me. She wants another dog or a cat, and she's tired of me limiting what she has. It's been a repeated conversation. We're currently living paycheck to paycheck, and we just can't afford to have another animal. I told her I will refuse to help or provide until our situation gets better, and she called me manipulative and controlling. Sounds like the one who should be rehomed is your girlfriend. Yeah, buddy, you need to totally reevaluate this relationship with her. This will not change without getting her some therapy or counseling, or it totally consumes your life with her. Hoarding animals is just as much a psychological problem as hoarding anything else. The complete lack of financial awareness is a really critical problem here. She moved back with her parents because she was financially unable to be alone. They kicked her out because she was probably financially mistreating them over the animals. She was financially abusing the situation with Opie until he woke up and put his foot down. And now she's accusing him of being the cause of her not being allowed to have animals, rather than realizing it is simply a reality that she cannot afford them. If she doesn't start to understand the financial reality for her situation, and get help for her hoarding of animals, she will just get worse to the point that nobody can deal with her. She's giving up her animals for you while you have given up your savings for a car for her. Sounds like she can only see her sacrifice and unable to recognize yours. Try to focus the conversation with her about what you two are trying to achieve. And if owning many animals at this time really helps you to reach your shared goals from a financial perspective. Not stay home. That sucks about your savings. Her calling you controlling and manipulative is cruel. Unless I was married or committed, I wouldn't pay for anything but gifts or an emergency towards a partner's animal. It's their responsibility. I would question her rational reasoning skills. She sounds like the manipulative one. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted after I found out my husband ran a secret background check on me before we got married? We've been married for 3 years, and I only just found out recently that before we got married, my husband ran a background check on me and my family. I found out because we were on vacation with his family, and they were doing things I had no interest in participating in a few times, so I stayed behind. He let me borrow his laptop because I left mine at home. I made a folder with my name, and I was searching for it when I found another folder with my name. The folder was full of reports on me, my family, including extended family, and 2 of my childhood friends. I read as much of the reports as I could before my husband and his family came home for the day. At first, I was just hurt he would do something like this without talking to me first, but as I read more and started finding out things about my family and friends that I never even knew, I started to get angry. It's hard to put it into words, but I felt like I had gone cold all over, but also like it wasn't me reading these things. So when I saw my husband, I exploded on him in front of his family. At first, I tried to say it wasn't a big deal, and his cousin chimed in to say it was normal, and he wasn't the only one who had done it in their family. When he saw I wasn't calming down, he tried to get me to go into our room so we could talk about it privately, but I told him I wasn't going anywhere with him and I was leaving. My husband told me to stay, and he would sleep somewhere else or he would leave, but we were staying in a house owned by his parents, and it felt weird for me to stay and make him leave, especially since his family were still there too. I ended up staying at a hotel for the night, and we both flew home shortly after that, cutting the vacation short. Am I the a-hole? I'm going with not the a-hole just based on how extensive the search seemed to be. I don't think it's super unusual to do a background check on someone, but the fact that it's your family, extended family, and friends leads me to believe that this is some U-level stalky BS, and I'd freak out too. Lol, so funny but true. Joe would be proud. If the family was like politicians and extremely wealthy type people, maybe it would seem normal or whatever. But without that context, I agree. Not the a-hole. At first, I tried to say it wasn't a big deal. Anytime somebody reaches for the not a big deal and tries to tell the upset person how to feel, they're being a-holes. And his cousin chimed in to say it was normal and he wasn't the only one who had done it in their family. Sounds like the family have normalized a-holes. I wonder if telling an angry person that what they're angry about isn't a big deal has ever worked a single time. I'm gonna go with no. Lol. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé I am not willing to lie about how we met to her family and friends? I met my fiancé online on a dating app. We have been together for 2 years now and got engaged recently. However, she keeps telling me that during the wedding she wants me to give a speech, talking about how I met her while she was working at a coffee shop, and I was so attracted to her that it was love at first sight, and I immediately asked her to be my girlfriend. She says that this makes her look better and will make her look good to her friends if I say that she was so beautiful that I immediately ask her out. To clarify, she is saying I have to say that I asked her to be my girlfriend right at the counter, without even having any sort of conversation with her first. The only problem is I feel very uncomfortable with this untrue versions of events. I'm happy to say she is beautiful and that I really love her personality, and that we had a great connection. But I'm uncomfortable with this portrayal of myself as some sort of creep who asks a complete stranger to be my girlfriend. There are other lies that she wants me to go along with too. For example, I inherited a house from my grandparents, but she is asking me to tell all her friends and family that I myself paid for and bought her the house because she is so special. After I said no, she has been saying that I care more about the opinions of other people than how she feels, and that she is reconsidering if she wants to be with someone who isn't on her side. Do I have a point, or does she? Just to be clear, my fiancé said that the reason she wants me to do the speech and tell people I bought her a house is so that her friends will envy her. She has already told her friends and family those things, but it's another thing to want me to actually talk about them and lie about these things. She knows that my friends and family know I inherited a house and that we met on a dating app, but she says I have to warn them not to say anything and pretend to believe me at the wedding. She gave me an ultimatum that we won't get married if I don't agree, and hasn't talked to me for days. It looks like I'm not the a-hole based on responses. How can I get her to see the light? Now for the top comments. She has been saying that I care more about the opinions of other people. She cares what other people think. That's why you need to change the narrative. She's ashamed of the dating app but doesn't like that you didn't buy your own house. Not today, Hall, obviously. Edit. Also, OP, no reason to lie about meeting online. Got my girlfriend on Tinder almost 5 years ago, and I'm proud of it. Or worse, wants to establish that the house is also hers to take it when she leaves. Yeah, I thought of that too. That's a slippery road for OP because she established to all her family and friends that the house is 100% hers. So if he doesn't, our him would make sure I can prove all of them that he inherited it, and that she never owned a cent of it when the moment comes, because the moment will come. Oh, it for sure will. I get a sense already that this girl is a little shallow and believes good optics/appearances justify lying. People like that, in my experience, would get on the stated court and say the house was hers. Everyone's saying the lying is the red flag, but had anyone stopped to consider the fact that she's trying to get him to reconsider by threatening to leaving him and calling off the wedding? That's manipulation. She's trying to manipulate you by implying she's going to leave if you don't do exactly what she wants and comply to her crazy rules. To me, that's the biggest red flag of all, OP. The rest of your life is going to be like this. Reconsider marrying her. Big red flags here. You can easily turn the truth into a cute story, and you should work on that together. What other lies has she told her friends and family? Indeed, what other lies has she told you? Yeah, dude. All I see is red, red, red. So much red, I'm convinced Moses is going to manifest from thin air and part your post. Why is she so adamant about all of these lies? Definitely not today, Hall. So, this means she's already been lying to everyone about how you met, and your house. I mean, if you're engaged, I imagine she's already been asked how you guys met. If you moved into a house together, people would have asked her about that too. Now she needs you to back up the story so she doesn't get caught. This is crazy behavior. If I were you, I would be very concerned about what else she has lied about. She has lied. She also tells her friends and family that I gave her a monthly allowance, saying she wants them to envy her. She told me she's going to quit her job after marriage so that her friends will envy that she gets to stay at home. I personally think the reason is silly that she's so competitive with her friends, but I've agreed because I don't want to lose her. Dude, she is giving off so many red flags here. When you're wearing rose-tinted glasses, red flags are just flags. Next story. Am I the a-hole for getting frustrated with my boyfriend for implying I don't deserve to make the money I make? I'm a 28-year-old woman and I got really lucky to get the job I have right now. I studied electrical and computer engineering in college and job hopped 4 times. Each time I switched jobs, I negotiated really hard for pay and benefits. I'm making 160 grand now, working remotely and living in a very low cost of living area. It's a really nice gig, and I recognize I'm extremely lucky to have interests that line up with a super well-paying industry, and super lucky to have been able to go to college at all. But despite that, I feel like I did work to deserve it somewhat. College was super demanding and difficult. My first few jobs had grueling schedules, and I feel like I'm being paid more for the knowledge I built over all that time. But still, I have to admit it's pretty cushy. I never work over 40 hours a week. My coworkers never contact me about work outside of my 9 to 5. I get paid stupid good money for it, and I have 2 months vacation time. So on to the conflict. My boyfriend used to work outside of home. He is an IT admin at a large company. But because of the pandemic, his job became partially remote. So we're working out of the same house, and I think he sees how different our jobs at pay are. He makes 65 grand a year and works a lot longer hours. He usually starts his day at 7 or 8 a.m. and works till 6 or 7 p.m. He more often has to work weekends to do IT stuff, and he's on call for emergencies with his personal phone. And it seems like they're having emergencies every week. So, since we've been working from home together, he makes comments about it occasionally. Like, must be nice kinds of things. Recently he's gotten more frustrated with me though. Yesterday I had a bad headache, so I told my boss that I was going to be away from my desk for a while since I wasn't feeling well. I blocked out a 2-hour meeting on my calendar so people wouldn't try and reach me and took a nap. My boyfriend saw me napping during work and said, "They're really paying you to sleep, huh?" I snapped at him saying that they were paying me for my skills and that I didn't like the way he had been talking about my job. He said something petty about my skills at napping and shooting the shit on Zoom and how that's definitely worth 6 figures. I got really irritated and said that just because he was underpaid doesn't mean that he could call me overpaid. And if he was mad, he should go take that out on his boss, not me. He said that I was being ridiculous. He'd be the crapper at work if he did. I said maybe he needs to find a better job if his boss isn't ready to talk money. He called me privileged and out of touch and said that it isn't that easy to just go find a better job. I said that if you don't try, you're never going to know. He got irritated and stormed out. Am I the a-hole for how I talked to my boyfriend about work? Not the a-hole. He is jealous, which isn't healthy, but you earned what you have and you should be proud. Don't let his fragile ego bring you down. This. To add on, his jealousy is a red flag. Partners should be happy for each other and build each other up. Making comments like that isn't healthy. Exactly. Her success did not come at the expense of his. In a healthy relationship, one person's success benefits both. Not the a-hole, obviously, but I'm really sorry this isn't going to work out. For a partnership to work, you need to support each other and build each other up. He's jealous, of course. Me too. Stupid arts degree. But he's trying to diminish you rather than celebrating where you've gotten to and asking for advice. You really do deserve someone who thinks you're amazing. This right here. My work situation is similar to OP's, and my wife was surprised at first when she realized it. Never did she put me down or diminish it. Instead, she talks about how inspiring it is to her to see how my company treats me, and how she hopes to find as good of a career as me someday. She's significantly younger. OP deserves a partner mature enough to handle the ramifications of his own decisions. So I had a boyfriend that belittled me and started fights over arbitrary things because I was making double what he was. His insecurity blinded his ability to be happy for what I worked really hard for. I'm saying everything in past tense because I dumped a guy and found someone who supports me in every way possible. You should do the same. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting to go to my sister's wedding? My sister is getting married next month. My husband and I were both planning on going, but when we got the invitation, it was only for me. When I called my sister to ask about it, she said my husband was of course fine to come, but she requested that he not be in any family photos. My husband is in a wheelchair. I've been married to him for 8 years. He has been in a wheelchair since he was 16, and my family's always ever known him to be in his chair. Apparently, my sister doesn't want him in any of her wedding photos because she is afraid that he'll take attention away from her because he is different. She justifies this by saying when people come over and see our family photo, they always ask about him because he's the only one that is in a wheelchair, so he stands out. She says she wants to be the main focus in her photos. I was livid. I went off on her and told her she was being a selfish bridezilla and told her we wouldn't be coming. I've been getting calls from my parents and relatives telling me I need to apologize to my sister because now she's upset. I'm angry at them for thinking it's okay to leave my husband out of family photos because of his disability. My husband hates being a burden on people, and he says he's fine with not being in the photos. Which made me even angrier, because now he feels bad about himself for something I feel is unwanted. Am I the a-hole if I don't support my sister's big day because of this? My husband says we should be there for family even if he can't be in the photos. My family says I need to apologize, but I feel like this is an issue I need to fight for. Am I wrong? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole at all. This is absolutely an issue that you need to fight for. Your sister wants to exclude your husband for no reason than his wheelchair, and that is unacceptable. She's being a bridezilla for sure, and your a-hole family members are backing her up. Don't feel 1 ounce of guilt for her. That's just freaking awful, and she needs to get over herself. OP is schedule a photo shoot with you and your husband on her wedding day. Go all out. Make them spectacular and post them to show how amazingly photogenic your husband is. Your sister wants to spend her day disrespecting your loving marriage because she thinks she's competing with a disability for attention. She clearly doesn't understand relationships enough to get married, although that's another issue, I guess. I wouldn't go to the wedding either because your sister cares more about photos than humans. Tell her to hire some actors that look exactly as she wants them. That way she gets her perfect moment and you don't have to be there. That's hilarious. I'll tell her my wedding gift to her is to hire some semi-attractive actors to take our plays. That way she can get the perfect photo. But just semi-attractive. If they're too pretty, then she'll be competing again. Maybe you should leave casting to her and just foot the bill. I told your idea to my husband and he cracked up. Although he said that since the wedding's mostly family, sending someone in our place would probably cause even more of an attention grab, and what we should do instead is send cardboard cutouts of ourselves in our place. Not stay home. This makes me so mad when people forgot what a wedding is about, just because they want the perfect wedding. Weddings are about two individuals joining their life together and deeply loving each other, Not having picture perfect to show and post on your Instagram. This is so superficial. That picture to post on Instagram is very important to her. She has kind of always been obsessed with image. But she's never said anything negative about my husband before, and this request really shocked me. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for getting mad at my mom for refusing to let my wife host a single holiday? I've been married for 6 years, and my wife and my mom have never really gotten along. I don't think my mom is an awful mother-in-law. They just don't vibe, and they avoid each other if they can. I would describe the relationship as frosty. My mom does respect our boundaries and doesn't undermine us as parents. She just keeps a pretty big distance and doesn't interact much. My mom hosts all holidays at her house, as does my mother-in-law. My wife and I rotate which family we celebrate with, and my mom is cool with that and has never pressured us to go to her house. Recently, my wife has expressed that she wants to turn to host, and she feels like since we have kids, 4 and 2, that the mom should hand it over to her. She talked to her mom, who was very sad, but agreed to let my wife have one holiday. I talked to my mom, since we both do the communication with our own family, and my mom said no. I gave her my wife's reasons. 1, we have young kids. 2, we have our own house now and our little family, and it's exciting for my wife. 3, my mom got 20 plus years of hosting. My mom said no again. She said if we don't want to come over, we don't have to, but she will not be coming to our house. She said we can invite my side of the family, but she honestly thinks that would be an a-hole thing to do. I asked if she really was willing to give up her holiday with her grandkids, and she said yes. I did get frustrated and called her selfish. The conversation ended with my mom yelling at me that I'm a hypocrite, and she feels like I expect her to care about my wife more than she is obligated to. I asked around and none of my relatives are willing to come, but my sister did yell at me and said I'm a bad son, and I'm disrespectful for thinking our mom should give up something she cares about. I work for my stepdad's company and is currently not talking to me, and I guess my whole extended family is talking bad about me, and they are offended that I thought they would come to my house. Your mom is being childish and trying to weaponize your relationship to keep a parental control on you. Set up those boundaries. You have your own family life, and it doesn't sound like she's willing to share in it currently. Common mom BS, but you may be surprised how well boundaries and putting your foot down can work. LMAO. I hope he and his wife want to host. His mom said she's staying home but hosting her own thing. What boundaries do you think are going to help? If anything, his mom has already set boundaries and put her foot down. If you have kids old enough to host their own holidays, then presumably you have had years and years and years of hosting. There's nothing wrong with allowing your now adult children to host for a change. If everyone hosted their own thing, then no gatherings would exist, and families would all just be at home on their own. Not day hall, but I'm baffled by anyone wanting to host holidays. The best part is going elsewhere to eat too much, and coming home to a quiet house with no mess to clean up. Not stay home, but your side of the family sure is. Wow, so much to unpack here. I don't think my mom is an awful mother-in-law, but the conversation ended with my mom yelling at me that I'm a hypocrite, and she feels like I expect her to care about my wife more than she's obligated to. She's not obligated to care about your wife. She should want to care about the person you have chosen to spend your life with and build a family around. Your mother absolutely is a bad mother-in-law. She is too selfish and controlling to let your wife host a holiday. That is petty and nasty. She has had her time to host. Do your own thing and invite who you want. Those that show up are your true family. Cherish those people. I guess she's a bad mother-in-law. I find my mother-in-law super overbearing and in our face. So sometimes I guess I envy my wife for having a mother-in-law who does not give a hoot.